Okay, so for this sketch, number 63, I had this really funny idea the other day, and it is to pick a random number between 1 and 62, the number of sketches we've done so far, and use that sketch, whichever random number we pick, as the jumping off point. So obviously there's a bunch of ways we could, go about getting the random number between 1 and 62. The first thing that came to my mind is to use a velocity. And I know this sounds silly, but we could easily set this at 62, put a random at 100%, and then let's get a group after this velocity. And if we open this MIDI effect rack up and open up velocity, and let's just hit a note. I'll hit C3. First, I guess we got to arm this track. I'll hit C3, and so it's going to pick a random number. Looks like between 1 and 127. So I think to get the random that we want, since this looks like it's going plus and minus, I think we need to do this. What is half of 62? That would be 31. And then half of that is going to be what? Oh, let's just say 16. And if we get 63, then we won't actually pick a random one. So that chances of that are 1 in 62, I guess. So here we go. Oh, it looks like 32 dead on the mark. All right. So that was fun. So let's open up 32. I have honestly no idea what this one sounds like. I have not actually gone back into any of these since we started this whole journey. So it'll be a surprise, and it may take me a second. I'm going to guess from the size of it, there's not a whole lot going on, but it looks like there actually is more going on than I figured. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just save this as 63. And I didn't think of doing any more randomness to come up with rules as far as, what to do with this thing. I think we'll just leave that up to our own devices. But first, let's have a listen to what this is doing exactly. Oh, that's nice. Immediately it's matching up with this very lush, swampy, liquidy visuals. Looks like the surface of Saturn or Jupiter or something. Cool, let's get some of these random follow actions. It's nice they changed the icons. You can tell which clips have follow actions now. Cool. Yeah, so this will be a good exercise in what to do when you open up an old sketch and you want to try and develop it further or take it in a whole new direction, or what to do. There are so many things you can do. I think the best thing to do, of course, first is just to listen to it for a little while, dive down into the tracks, see what you've got. If it's all just like wave files, that's pretty easy. I think most people will probably just be a bunch of wave files. I'm choosing on this sketch series to do things mostly DSP based. To me, that's a challenge. Mixing down to waves, it's a bit static, a bit too repetitive, and I kind of want to also develop my own skills and abilities in generative music making and DSP sound design. Okay, so I'm guessing here that we've got PB1 and PB2. Okay, now it's kind of coming back to me. We have pitch bends inside of each of these clips and different types of pitch bends. And so the follow actions are randomly picking clips and playing the pitch bends in there. And these pitch bends are going to analog 1. Now, this was like a Ableton 10 sketch, so before the MPE abilities of Live 11. Sadly, we can't use the per note pitch feature with the analog or operator yet. I really do hope they expand that at some point. Because this thing here is pretty amazing. Okay, so I think what I want to do is perhaps switch these analogs out, and instead of having this, well, I will say this. This method is actually, I think, now that I'm looking and thinking about it, superior to having per note pitch bends in here. It's superior and it's not superior. It's superior in the fact that we are able to have clips with unique and individual pitch bends playing at random. And we are able to have multiple clips with pitch bend data, which is going to produce a unique effect all on its own. These will be fighting sometimes for pitch bend control. So that's something you cannot achieve with this. This is a per note, and you only get the length of the note to do your pitch bending. So that's superior in other ways. There's a lot more control there. All right, let's look at this cheese. We've got, it looks pretty basic, operator, vocoder, external, and no input. Wonder if we meant to do that. Some pitch tracking there, I see. Curious where the sound for this one is coming from, and it looks like this is a vocal sounds. Okay, so even I have to go back and sort of re-familiarize myself with some of the nutty crap that was done in some of these sketches. It's okay, cool. So I think I have a good sense of what this thing sounds like and what things we could do. I could hear that a beat added onto this. We could obviously go in and spend a lot of time tweaking these individual sections, but my evaluation is that we have we have 13% used. So at that point, it's pretty safe to say that we can easily add in a bunch of new layers. So we have plenty of CPU headroom to play with. So that would make me want to go ahead and try and craft some kind of a beat, like a minimal, perhaps, kind of style of beat. First, I want to just double check really quick, for my own sanity's sake, to make sure that the analog instrument does not, in fact, I see. So, okay, it does not accept the MPE ability, unless there's something in here that I'm missing, something they added that allows you to switch that on, or, and I'm pretty sure the operator also does not. Would be super amazing if it did, and I really look forward to the day when the operator allows for this. But okay, so enough of that tangent. Okay, cool. So I have another idea in mind. I'm going to locate another piece. Let's see, not that one, not that one. Just kind of getting lost here. So the other day I did a little test for possible future sketch idea. And the test was to see if I could recreate a song that I really like. There's an artist, it's actually a band, if you will, two artists. It's Max Loderbauer and Ricardo Villalobos. And they have a side project called Vilod, which is kind of a minimal, sort of jazzy, sort of textural sound designy. I want to say it's a further evolution of their re-ECM project where they remixed a bunch of ECM records, artists and songs. So I want to pull this thing in and use this, combine these two together. I'm not sure what this is going to sound like. Let's go ahead and group this. Oftentimes when I'm working on an album, I do this thing where I have a folder, a single folder with a whole bunch of sketches, and I will just combine multiple ones together and see if I can make them work together. And when I hear them all together, sometimes it makes sense to start the song out with one section of the sketch and then transition it into the next sketch. Okay, let's try playing some of these. I don't know what 15 MIDI. Looks like it may not be doing anything. This is just kind of a empty track there. Let me make sure we don't have any weird routings. It doesn't look like it. I do believe that trying to take a song by another artist and recreate it in your own way is actually a really, really good exercise. It can take hours to try and nail down a specific sound. But it's worth it in some cases. If you have the energy and the patience to pull off, to really just, you could drop the track in an MP3 or a WAV and then just listen to it over and over and try to break down the layers, analyze the sounds, spend some time recreating certain things with synths. Obviously, some sounds, you can't really easily recreate with DSP. You can get a facsimile going, but like live drums, for example, good luck trying to get anything near the actual sound of live drums coming out of an operator type of synth or an analog type of synth. So far, everything's sounding like it fits. I want to go ahead and I didn't know I had that feature turned on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and I wanted to open up really quick. Yep, let me just bomb the screen with Google there. So yes, vilod clop, obviously still in the search history there. So let's have a listen to this piece. I'll go ahead and mute this. We'll just have a listen to it. I'm just going to jump into the middle of it. And if I remember, it was like 99 or some slower. And what I had done was just I used an audio driver called Cable, and there's a free one out there, and it's just one channel, and you can route audio from your browser into Ableton. And so I just recorded some of this song by the artist Vilod, and spent about an hour or two trying to essentially, recreate that. It's obviously not the same if you really sit there and break it down and really listen closely. But the point for me wasn't to do an exact replication. It's a technique that they in the painting arts call master copying, and something that when I was in college studying fine arts, oil painting, acrylic, gouache, all that fun stuff. They had a whole semester, there was a class on master copying, and essentially what you do is you take a painting by a master, like John Singer Sargent, Monet, Salvador Dali, etc. You really study their technique. You look at other paintings they did, you read some of their manuscripts or books if they have done anything about, like, written about their own techniques. Read what others have studied and discovered about their own techniques, and you try to essentially recreate their brushstrokes, you recreate their technique and style, and you take one of their paintings and you make a copy of it, and you learn. You know, it's a really tedious, kind of annoying, boring type of way to, you know, but let's face it, a lot of learning is pretty boring. Unless you're teaching yourself something and you're going about it your own way and you're figuring out ways to make it fun and interesting along the way, which is something I'm trying to sort of iterate and get out there with these sketches. And so, yes, so I decided to do a master copy style of reproducing a song that I really liked by this artist I really liked. And I learned a whole lot, even in the process of a couple hours of just getting to this not exact but somewhat close-ish place of I mean, you can hear there's obvious differences. You know, mine is a lot brighter. The probabilities are different. If I was to try to do, you know, the exact equivalent of what painters do with the master copy technique, or that thing, I would be trying to reproduce this song note for note, sound to sound. And I have done that before with ambient songs, with much simpler songs than this, and even then it takes a long time, but I have learned so much in those processes. So I do recommend trying some form of a master copy, and if not that, at least if there's an aspect of a song you like the snare or the kick, you know, try and recreate just that, and you'll be amazed, I think, at what you'll learn in that journey, in that effort and attempt to try and recreate. So it was a lot of fun, and there's a lot of cool layers here that, you know, don't need to go to waste. Nothing ever needs to go to waste if you don't want it to. So I could turn off all the ambient stuff and the bass, like all the melodies, and just leave the textural and percussion stuff. Interesting. So it sounds like something is now coming through this group. I'm not sure where that clicking now is coming from. From this hiss, perhaps. That's fascinating. I don't see the output of this hiss producing any sort of clicking. Do you? Wow, that's unexpected. So we have a vinyl distortion here, but it's almost like the delay effect broke. Okay, that's interesting. Be something to think about for try to track down a future bug there. Who knows? And let's listen to the ambience layers, because I feel like they're in the same key and everything. Nice. It's nice when you have two sketches that you pull together kind of at random almost, and they just happen to work well together in the same key. As I tend to work in the white keys a lot, you know, I keep the music fairly simple unless I just put on like a random note MIDI thing with like a chord maker afterwards. As we've done in other sketches, like if you just stick with white keys with ambient music, it's, you know, it's a music theory cop-out, but it works. You know, a lot of those styles of music, there's not a whole lot of, you know, super adventurous kind of key shifts and chord changes. Otherwise, you end up in these territories of like sort of sounding like commercial music, or, you know, some cheesy soundtrack kind of music. You know, when dealing with minimal stuff, you kind of want to keep it pretty simple anyway. So at that point, when you do a lot of sketches with those kind of tenets, you end up being able to combine them and they just sort of work together. Oftentimes I may have to just like use a scale MIDI effect and shift a few notes around. Nice. I like that these are working really well together. We're still only, you know, pushing 20 to 22% on the average. We get these jumps, but I'm not sure what's up with that with Ableton 11. I feel like we get some weird CPU spikes in this version. Now we could group this whole thing and add some effects to the entire group, which is, you know, could ruin it, or who knows. All right, let's get ourselves a gate. I have a feeling this will be a shorter sketch today. We kind of cheated, didn't we? But sometimes that is a sketching session, is just trying to combine multiple sketches or parts from various sketches. You know, not trying to invent new wheels, so to speak. And that's okay, honestly. There shouldn't have to be really hard rules as far as it needs to be this way or that way all the time. Frankly, when there's those cages of concepts or directions, I feel like that can really sort of kill the fun, can kill the adventurous, playful spirit. That is, I think, a part, unfortunately, of being an adult, is having to, like, have those routines, have those, you know, repetitions, and try to learn to have fun within that. And obviously, if we want to get an album done, we do have to have a certain routine, or stick to some goals. We have to make some deadlines for ourselves. If we don't, nothing ever gets done. I've seen a lot of artists fall by the wayside of that. And also the whole, we have to learn to mitigate the whole mental battle of, is it good enough? Is anyone gonna like it? Should I even bother putting it out there? I helped quell those paranoias within myself by listening to a lot of music and trying to produce music using A/B comparison. At least in the beginning, the first several albums, I did a lot of this, where I would listen to an album and compare mine, and then try to figure out ways to improve mine based on what I felt was like a gold standard. You know, back then it was a lot of Pole, Joshua Kid Clayton, Vladislav Delay, early Ricardo Villalobos. There were just certain artists that were doing really fascinating, detailed work. A lot of the old 12K stuff with a lot of intricate sound design and editing. And that's just kind of what I ended up trying to strive for. I tried to make, you know, my sketches sound to that level. I didn't want to replicate them. you know, never using samples from those songs. I think on occasion I did use a sample from a song here and there that I really liked, but I would remix it, I would time stretch it, I would run it through a bunch of effects, you know. There's I do like the little glassy, clicky sounds coming out of this grain delay, pitch down -12. It's unpredictable, and I think what we should do is group this, and like in the last sketch, pull in a tremolo. And let's do every 2 measures, we'll have it come through this grain delay. And what we need to do is make another, I'm just holding down control and dragging this to drag a copy of it. Make a new chain, normalize that. Let's delete this. And the trick is to undo it, to delete and undo, and it syncs up these 2 tremolos exactly in time as we reinstantiate this thing from the undo. So if we yank this all the way up to 100, we'll hear it fading between grain delay and no grain delay. And we can up the shape to get a lot sharper of a switch, but then you hear these on-off spots. So I like a bit more of a, and I think the on-off spot is happening because this shape all the way up, you know, you get these sections of silence with these really high, slow rates, I should say. Slow, not high. Am I high? That would be an interesting challenge. Maybe try sketching high and just see what... I think at that point I might even do something even lazier than today in combining 2 sketches. I might just, let's just open up an old sketch and sit here and talk about it and maybe tweak a few knobs. And so for this, I feel almost like pulling out these beat elements into their own, pull them out of the main group and just have them in a separate group. There we go. We get that weird bug. Might have to report that. Yeah, and then we turn off the delay, and I'm not sure what's going on there because maybe we just need to upgrade it. Let me try this. Or just move this out of here and see if... And then let's undo until we get the upgrade button back. And see if we pull this layer out, if we get the same. Very strange. I'm not sure what to make of that. Maybe we really don't need this hiss layer. I'm hearing enough hiss coming from some of these other... We'll call this melody group. Name of my new band. I'm gonna do hauntological music. Melody group effects. And let's see. Melody group being some 1980s Muzak company just called Melody Group. We produce music for elevators and McDonald's lobbies, etc. Okay, we'll call this beat. I do like the slow ambient with this nice kind of hypnotic beat happening. Beat effects. And I'm trying to use these arrows to indicate the flow of things. It helps me down the road. Let's pull in just copy this gate over here, but reroute it from beat. And we definitely need to get another limiter in here. Boost it up. Okay. Sometimes it's nice to push a compressor. There we go. Let's hear a compressor with a bit of sidechain from the beat effects track. Get that sort of breathing. Maybe if we put the breathing of pumping compressor effect before our nice, cool. Lots of fun sounds happening in here. Let's bust out some VSTs, I think, now that we've got a good sort of foundation. So anybody opens this up and they don't have the VSTs, at least they get to hear this much of it. That really fits with this. It looks like somebody took a bunch of paint, maybe, and chemicals, or it's just a super high up satellite footage of sections of the planet Earth, perhaps. I like that ambiguity. Okay, enough blah blahing. What should we do here? I just got Guitar Rig 6. I have been a huge user of Guitar Rig 5. Guitar Rig 6 is, I'm still wrapping my head around it. It's should just be called Effects Rig. Mostly not amazing sounding, sending actual guitars through it. It's a bit I don't know, just kind of digital sounding for guitars. If you're doing commercial songwriting and your guitar is not going to do a solo or be out in the open and sitting, you know, where everyone's going to listen to it first and foremost, something like Guitar Rig is just fine. But if you're trying to do like a solo high gain, especially with, you know, I wouldn't recommend something like Guitar Rig for guitars. Overloud makes a plugin called THU, and I highly recommend that one in terms of just low CPU use. Sounds amazing for guitars as far as distortion goes. That's one of my biggest pet peeves with plugins, is oftentimes the distortion just sounds nowhere near as good as a pedal or an amp. But THU Overloud sounds pretty darn, I mean, just like I played guitars since I was, 14, and I have a lot of experience with the sound of amps and things and pedals, and so I have to say that one comes pretty close. You know, nothing will ever, of course, sound as good as the real thing, but, you know, when you're strapped for time, or if you just want to challenge yourself to try and work in the box only. Oh, I do like the tones coming off of this one. I will say, to be fair, the new amps that come with Guitar Rig 6, they use machine learning actually they were produced via machine learning. They sound pretty good actually, as far as components, amplifiers. Let's see, where are they? Cabinets, distortions maybe. I was probably just looking at it. Yeah, Chicago is one. Yes, the one with the ICM logo, fire breather. Yeah, these sound good actually, but they use a ton of CPU, so, you know, I'm not really sure if I would use, you can't use very many of these in a project. Maybe in 10 years computers will be so fast. Once we get those quantum laptops, quantum tablets, I think you know, we'll be able to run as many plugins as we want. Hopefully before I die, I get to have a computer that's that awesome. Okay, back on track. A little scattered today, but those are usually the days when you'll see me doing things like, let's start from another sketch and give ourselves an easy way out here. And that's okay. You gotta have a backup plan. Some really nice sounding delays and I like to just wet dry a little bit of, you know, this effect doesn't have a master wet and dry like so many effects. Frankly, Ableton should just be built in a little wet and dry knob right here. Just a tiny little thing you can click and drag up and down and just, yeah. Okay, let's go ahead and pull that out. And what should we drop in there? I'm thinking some transverb. I really love these settings. I find myself going to just drop an octave and drop 2 octaves on the second lane, head 1 and head 2. We'll pull this down. And as you can hear, we really just broke down the beat. It's nice to have like a 50-50. We could use this one here, but it's a bit clicky if we want to do any kind of automating. This is a very glitchy type of effect. It can be very clicky. Let's hold down Control and click and drag a copy. And summon a, whoops, did not want to do that. Another effects rack. And let's just sort of have this one turn on and off every now and then. We'll give ourselves a little bit of runway there. You can really kind of glitch out. If you have a minimal effect, the transverb can be very nice. Unfortunately, I think you're only going to find it workable, usable on a PC, and you'll have to have something like jbridge because it's only made in 32-bit. But yeah, Smart Electronics is the maker, and super old school, but I'm in love with some of these garbagey sounding old school effects from when I was first experimenting with plugins. Those were the days. You know you're old when an old producer when you're talking about plugins in a nostalgic way. Okay, let's pull our loop off of the grid a little bit. And we could also automate this whole thing just on and off. I think I want to do that. We'll draw this one. And another old school effect I really love is skidder. This one is basically like drops the audio out at intervals, but you can add in this rate random factor. Give yourself a little floor so that it sort of jumps between this random range of minus infinity and minus 10. You can add a rupture, which is just a noise burst, which is kind of fun to automate on every now and then. Give yourself a little bit of occasional One of my favorite effects of all time is this buzz here. I don't even know where I found this. It's some old school business that loads in buzz effects, and those were made specifically for the buzz tracker, which sadly has just been terribly neglected. So many people created a lot of really cool effects for it. They all sound mostly garbage. A lot of the guys who were making those effects were just experimenting with DSP. A lot of them were pretty buggy. Something like Neptune does a really fascinating kind of blurring. But you can make a really nice underwater sound. I love my old school Masterverb. One of the first reverbs I got. Can't even find this old version. They've got a new one that's got a lot more bells and whistles, but I think this one just sounds better. Frankly, just better all around. I think you can still find this buzz wrapper, effects wrapper, on the KVR site. There's a thread where somebody's got a link they posted to it, but trying to get it to work is a lot of hoops of fire you got to jump through. And it's not for the faint of heart. It can be pretty buggy. I had to go through a lot of effects and weed them out because there's just a lot of them that will crash. I ended up making myself a whole bunch of audio effects racks that contain all the buzz plugins that I think are worthy, that have really cool sound, a unique sound. They can be really lo-fi, but the only problem with this buzz wrapper is you don't get any parameters. So the only way I found around that, again, a technique I found out on KVR, is to use this Mux modular, which is an amazing tool. Really good investment. And you can load up VSTs inside that, and then in here you can map the parameters. Somehow Mux can see the parameters, but Ableton cannot. So it's a bit of a wrap job. But then you can automate. I love automating, yeah, as you know. So being able to automate the parameters of these buzz plugins, to me, you know, and this is a bit of a secret sauce recipe, you know, ingredient that I love to use in my recipes, are these buzz plugins. Just mainly showing them here to show that they can be used in Ableton. And there is I think it's buzzmachines.com, and you can find a ton of DLLs there. Most of them are maybe sound pretty blasé. I had a lot of time at some points in my life, and I went through all of them and found, just, you know, focused in and found the ones that were A, stable, and B, had an original sound. They use very little CPU. Some of them sound really gross. There are ones like Numbered that is a crazy distortion, experimental distortion that makes just ungodly, glitchy. Yeah, as you can hear, very, very gross. We'll try this on our beat. Yeah, Numbered is one of those I can't use a whole lot of. It is very glitchy. And as you can hear, it's very digital, lo-fi, you know, 90s sounding digital experimental. anyways. Let's add a lot more tempo and speed to this. Again, you need something like jbridge to use. I think it's like 15 bucks, and it lets you create these, you know, PC only, unfortunately, I think, these 6.64-bit sort of proxy versions of 32-bit plugins. So you can load all your old school ones in there. And the same with Buzz, too. To get it loading into Mux, you have to have a 64-bit proxy. Let's play with... you can really warp stuff around with Pitch Wheel. It's my favorite inline pitch plugin of all time. And you can have a separate timbre, which does even weirder things to the sound. It's great for voices. All right, let's automate some of that. Let's make sure we're, yep, looks like we're a go there. I don't think the mix is completely clean. In other words, you get some clicks or zippers. Frankly, I don't know how a plugin developer that can produce something this great and have a bit of a dirty wet and dry knob there. I think most developers, they assume that you're going to have these plugins just sitting there. You're not going to automate things, but still. Cool. Let's get a little bit of a 50-50 split there. With a minimal beat like this, you're not going to notice the zippers quite as much. It's mainly, I notice, when you send a bass note through. Oh, hey. Whoops. Okay, recovered from the crash. Good old plugins. It's most of the problems that I have in life are due to plugins. So anyway, I feel like we've got a good little thing going here, and I think it's probably a decent stopping point. Again, I think the takeaway from this particular sketch is the concept of combining sketches or pulling in tracks from other sketches and building up new sketches that way. Once you have an arsenal, a large amount of work to pull from, there's no reason why you shouldn't. And one thing I know is 100% certain, you can take a track with a certain sound from one song. You can even take an actual sample from one song, use it in a whole other song, and depending on how you mix it in, if it's mixed in with a bunch of other sounds, guaranteed most people will not notice, unless that sound is very much stand-outish, like a vocal clip or a specific solo. Even then, if you pitch it down or run it through some effects, you can get away with reusing and recycling things a whole lot. In fact, you know, that will actually help develop a specific sound for you. Like if you have certain kick drum presets for whatever synths you like to use, and you keep going back to those, you know, that is going to sort of help push forward a certain sound that you that is, you know, your sound, essentially. So all right, so I guess until next time, keep it weird, or just, you know, keep it sort of weird, or keep it not weird at all. Just keep going. That's all there is to it. If I could be imparting any tidbits of encouragement, keep it fresh. That's one thing's for sure. That really helps. Unless you're a person that just absolutely just dies for repetition, you love repetition, But hey, man, keep it repetitive. Whatever it takes, just keep going. Keep trying to keep having fun. Keep it stimulating. All right.